Moms for Liberty really worked miracles.
We have a crisis in America in public education. This is the future of our kids and our country.
You are joyful warriors.
And we are just getting started.
Welcome to the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Descovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. This show is where we bring you the frontline warriors, moms and dads from across the country that are battling in this culture war for our kids and our country. And they are they're joyful warriors that are taking on so many of the battles that others don't have the courage to take on. They are stepping up where our elected leaders and our paid leaders are failing miserably. And some of these folks are in deep, deep blue states, deep, deep blue counties and cities and states. And our guest today is one of those. So I'm really excited for you to meet her today. But first, I want to talk to you just for a second about what I've been up to. I came back late last night from Washington, D.C., and I had the exceptional honor of attending the First Lady's Fostering the Future event at the State Department. The first time I'd ever been to the State Department building. It was a little overwhelming, I'd say. It was very intense. It's very quiet in there, almost like a museum. Like when you go to the White House, the energy is so exciting, no matter where you are in the White House. Like for the first time, I got to go to the West Wing a few weeks ago and have an actual serious meeting. But even then, like people are hustling and bustling and the energy is so exciting. And I guess I'm just excited to be in the West Wing. When we have events at the White House, of course, there's music and there's, fanfare, and it's very exciting. But yesterday was intense. There was 45 countries represented, spouses of prime ministers and presidents and other leaders. And everybody came in with a level of seriousness, very well composed. I would say before it started, 10 minutes before it started, everyone was in their seats and silent. There was no whispering. There was no discussing. It felt important, I would say. And it was important. The topic was the future of ed tech, AI in our countries and technology and what's happening to our kids. And I went thinking we were going to hear from everybody bragging about how great their country is doing with it. And what I ended up hearing was a lot of humility. Leaders from around the world don't know what to do with what's happening with kids and technology. And for me, that was very comforting to hear everyone trying to put kids first. And that's what we do here at Moms for Liberty. That's what our guest does at Moms for Liberty today. Her name is Shannon Adcock. She is, she's a mom of 3. She is the founder of Awake Illinois. And she started the very first chapter of Moms for Liberty in Illinois. And we are thrilled to have you here today, Shannon.
Thank you, Tina. It's great to be here. Love the studio. It's awesome here.
Thanks.
Well done.
Yeah, it's our little cubby back here. People say it looks much bigger on screen than in person, but we like it. The ladies put it together and did a pretty good job.
It's great. It's perfect. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How are you liking Florida so far?
It's awesome. I was just sharing with you all before we went live that I got to see dolphins yesterday swimming in the bay, which is better than a No Kings protest. So loved it. Yeah, it's great. It's great to be here. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, it's a great place to live. I've lived here most of my life, left a couple times, and I just always come back because it's Florida for one, which is great. The weather's great. Obviously, the dolphins are definitely a bonus. But it's also really calm where we are. We're not Miami, we're not Orlando.
Sure.
And most of us here live even out further on a little bit of a barrier island where no one goes. And so it's my jam for sure.
And we envied your governor, DeSantis, during the hot mess of 2020 forward. So yeah.
I had no idea that he was going to be such an amazing governor. I didn't really know who he was. I didn't really have any expectations or hopes. And to be honest, he did pull the trigger to lock us down. But it luckily it was truly the 2 weeks.
Yes.
And so, but even just that, I'm a libertarian at heart, I would say. And I gathered up my thoughts when I heard we were being locked down and shut down and schools were being shut down. And I went out in my backyard and I cried. I was like, I cannot believe that our government that has the power over us to just do what he just did. And I remember thinking, I will never forgive him. I will never vote for that man. I will make it my mission.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever said that publicly. Like I had rage come
immediately.
Yeah. When you feel like tyranny's at your door.
And ironically, your state became like a pocket of resistance that was an example for the rest of the country. So yeah, you were fortunate in that way. But yeah, a lot of people were like, don't underestimate where government will go with this. In Illinois, where I live, Deep Blue, Illinois, with Pritzker, Governor Pritzker, who I had to sue. We can talk about that later. Worst governor in history. I mean, we were not the pocket of resistance, but within our state were certainly groups that did rise to the occasion, but it's tough.
There were groups all across the country that rose to the occasion, and a few leaders. Yeah, I need to redeem Governor DeSantis real quick because he stepped up to the plate and hit a home run again and again and again. And I adore him now. So, you know, that brief moment of him, I think, making a bad choice, and my reaction was one thing, but he redeemed himself, and he became what we called America's governor back then.
One of the best governors in contemporary times. There's no question. So thanks to Governor DeSantis for the work that he did. But meanwhile, those of us in blue states, you know, I think there has been a lot of profanity that has been spewed because of our frustration. And so I think that's just a good segue. You have a swear jar here. Explain the swear jar.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you're a listener of the show, we always have a swear jar, even when we're traveling. And this is the one we keep in the office. If you're watching, Amy, my assistant and producer, I will call her the producer because she's over there producing right now. She actually made this great little swear jar, and we keep it on her desk. It actually has money in it because every now and then people are swearing. People are swearing. we have good reason to swear. We hope not to swear on the show, but you warned me on X last night or the night before that I needed to make sure I had the swear jar out for this episode.
Yeah, so
there it is.
I brought cash, and I heard that $20 is for the F-bomb.
Yeah. You can put $1 in if you want to say HELL or something of that nature. But if you're going to drop an F-bomb, and I don't think you can drop it on the show because we might get banned from YouTube, you definitely have to put 20 in.
So I'm not going to swear. That's the disclaimer. I'm not going to swear, but particularly people living in blue states or who are very frustrated with just the state of their government, with the assault on our children, parental rights. As we're speaking, you may think that there is a swear word that would just hit right. So I'm purchasing an imaginary swear word where certain things just don't hit the right. They'll know. Depending on the topic, particularly my friends in Illinois, they'll know when we're talking about certain things. There are some words that just need a little more zest. So I'm purchasing an imaginary swear word.
Put $20 in there.
That will not be spoken, but it will be imagined.
Okay.
Aw shucks just doesn't cut it sometimes, Tina. Like sometimes you need a little more zest. So in your mind,
darn it.
No, that's not going to cut it. We need more than that. So this is to purchase imaginary swear words when we're talking about the battle.
All right. So our conversation might get a little intense is what I'm feeling as we're going to talk a little bit about being in a blue state, because I know nothing about that, right? I'm over here in the lap of liberty luxury in Florida.
Paradise.
Literally paradise with dolphins and Ron DeSantis. What more do I need? And so let's just talk a little bit about what has it been like for you? I would say you probably have the same spirit I do of liberty and freedom.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate your focus on being a libertarian. That's kind of where I am, you know, just to be as free can be and hopefully be left alone by your government. But, you know, being in Illinois, and my husband and I are born and raised there. We left for 12 years, had our kids elsewhere, but came back. We were very proud to live in Illinois and to be from there. But then once 2020 came, it was kind of a reality, you know, check where it's like, wait, everything I thought to be true isn't. And so a lot of us just pivoted from like a normal everyday way of life to this battle. Simply to have our First Amendment right to free speech was a battle. Protecting our children's due process rights in the state of Illinois was a battle. And, you know, I think any of us who are fighting, like, props to our spouses, props to my husband, John, 23 years married this summer, and our kids who have walked this journey, you know, with me. I think Moms for Liberty leaders understand that. You get it. Like, it's a family journey. And so props to everyone who has stood boldly, you know, for truth and for liberty. But in a blue state like Illinois, you have to fight so hard for the basics. You have to really work hard to stand in that gap. And
do you ever win?
You do, but you have to face some serious losses. And so I ran for school board in 2021, very contentious, 4th largest district in the state of Illinois, like 30,000 kids. That's probably akin to like a congressional race in some districts in the country. And so media, teacher unions, this, you know, vast machine I had no idea existed. I was just like a mom, you know, I've been a photographer in the community, PTA leader, church deacon. I was like, this is an extension of volunteerism, only to realize, oh no, this is a beast. And so there was a coordinated effort that I wasn't even aware of, and then got close to the union-backed slate to run for school board. But 2 days afterwards, I was picking up my campaign signs. Like that's like the sad, slow time to contemplate. And you're just like, wow, that's tough. But this isn't my path. This isn't the journey. Where can I still empower people and still stand for kids? And so as I was driving around, I was like, maybe I just need to start my own platform, because I'm not seeing a lot of hustle by the Republican Party, the party that I thought would, uphold the values of families and liberty.
Let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
So you run for school board,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm guessing you lost because you were picking up your signs with a sad face.
Did not win.
Are they partisan in Illinois?
No. They're nonpartisan on paper, but they're partisan in practice.
Of course. Yeah, that's how it is here in Florida too. We tried to get that changed, not really hard, but there's been a couple bills that have, we tried to, because it's ridiculous. Anyways, with that, the Democrats here and the teachers unions get behind whoever's a Democrat, hands down. I mean, they bust them in to campaign against me in 2020. So is it the same way in Illinois? You've got the teachers union and the Democrats.
Absolutely. You've got the flyers that are funded. I mean, the candidates don't even have to really lift a finger. They have the whole apparatus and the runway
and the Retired Teachers
elected.
Unions Association call banking like crazy. They got nothing else to do. It's all they care about now. And it's a massive machine to be up against. And so you just step in thinking, I'm a mom. The playing field's equivalent. I'm going to run. Did you try to reach out to your Republican Party to see if they would help you? Are you Republican, first of all, I guess, is the first question.
I voted Republican, yes, but I wasn't involved in our township GOP. But I had those people who see that I was speaking at the Reopen Schools rally in December 2020. And the one gentleman was like, you're a really good public speaker. Have you done this a long time? And that was kind of where it ended. It wasn't can we help support you? Or, there were a couple people that I think tried, but it wasn't this really strong organized effort to see a team sanity mom in the community get elected. It was we've never really done school board races. And at that time it was getting a little hot, because the Reopen Schools, because of the critical race theory that we had all, discovered, and the race hustling in the classrooms. And I, totally naive to politics, was here are my cards. We should reopen schools and culture responsive teaching, CRT, race hustling is bad. And so the teacher union sniffed that out right away. And so they actually launched a pretty good, I would say, offensive against me. They weren't just we're going to support our people and let Shannon do her thing. They were ooh,
destroy.
We can't have destroy. We can't have this mom anywhere near our school board. And I would have been outvoted 6-1 anyways. So it was better that I started Awake Illinois 2 days after losing that school board race, where I literally typed in how to start a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
And the same year as Moms for Liberty launched, and other grassroots organizations. So I think that's just so interesting that without knowing each other across the country, those of us who were looking around and saying, this is so wrong, what is happening to our families and to our liberty, we have to do something, rather than, try and flip tables or get a seat at the table where they don't want you. We just created our own.
And back up again to the Republican Party conversation.
Okay,
I don't think we explored that one enough.
Let's
so
do it.
They were help, or they were zero help. They just didn't even know what to do because they weren't involved ever in education. That's what I'm thinking the answer is, but I
think it was twofold. I think it was something that they never really focused on. And it was all because it's nonpartisan, but it was also getting really hot. I think they didn't want to hurt their other township or local races by parlaying in this strong culture war sort of sector. There was a lot of fear. There still is.
What are they afraid
of? Fear.
Losing in Illinois, in a blue state? What?
They've lost everything. I think they're afraid. They just want to focus on getting fundraising done, and then to not have the woke clown cars rev their engines and come for them. It takes a certain temperament to hear those engines and still walk forward boldly. For kids, for this country, it takes a certain temperament, and most of the Republican Party just doesn't have it. They want a Republican like it's 1982 and go to the events and fundraise. They don't want to have the really robust energy of hate directed at them. And look, I get that. It's not easy to be in conflict, but are we going to stand for these kids? The best we can do is to pretend like the war on children isn't happening. Shame on us if that's our MO. So the parental rights movement and our organizations are so, so important, because I guarantee you any Moms for Liberty chapter chair is getting more messages on how to protect children than any state Republican chairperson is getting. Nobody's running to them.
Yeah, I'm sitting here listening to you with an array of emotions.
Do you need to put some dollars
Well,
in the swear jar?
part of it is anger and frustration with
Yes.
the failure of the Republican Party. I mean, I said it from the beginning. Moms really wouldn't have to exist if the Republican Party was doing its job the way it should have
You
been
and I wouldn't
originally.
be talking right now. As grateful as I am to be here, it's a shame that we had to become so public to speak for children, but who else was going to do it?
And what we've had to endure and had to go through.
Yes.
Like I love, it's the honor of my life to serve in this and do this role, but my husband's retired and I would be happy to be traveling. This
Yeah.
is not, I don't need to do this. And I
No.
would prefer to not be fighting every
Yeah.
single day. It's exhausting.
It is. I preferred taking pictures of families and
Mhm.
capturing smiles instead of being on national news and then having a bunch of people, send you hate messages. Like that's not ideal.
So in a lot of places, I don't know if you want to be this frank. I don't know what your relationships are like with the Republican Party locally, but a lot of places our chapters are shunned and they have to actually fight the Republican Party. So they have to fight,
It's not right.
they have to fight the left, they have to fight the right, just to protect kids and
Yep.
move forward. And so are you finding that in Illinois
Oh,
to be
yeah,
the same?
100%. Or the people that they want to bring into the fold are the people that will follow the script and not deviate and not welcome the clown car engines to roll in. It's
Yeah.
just the people that want to talk about taxes and that's about it.
Safe topics.
The safe topics. Yeah. And so it's my opinion that, the Republican Party in this country would be winning a lot more if they really welcomed in the leaders and the fighters and the warriors.
The actual grassroots workers.
Yeah. And if nothing else, because people respect our vibe, like they listen to us, we message effectively, they want to follow good leaders. That is where people are going for their information. If you want to know what's happening in K through 12 schools, you're not going to ask your Republican chairperson. You're going to ask Moms for Liberty. You're going to ask Awake Illinois. You're going to follow them because they have the receipts. So if they were smart, they would do better brokerage with grassroots.
Well, and if we're going to be honest and frank right now, they struggle with women vote. Like everybody knows that. And here we are, women that have principles that align with theirs, that have values that align with theirs, that believe the things about the country that we believe. And yet they push us out. They shut us out. They don't include us. I mean, I'll just be honest. I've told you this. I went to my local Republican Party before starting Moms for Liberty and just said, hey, can I just start an education arm underneath the Republican Party and do some advocacy work? Shut me down, shut me out, lost my Republican paperwork to be part of the executive committee. And so
So did they see you as a threat to their MO, or were you, what do you think? Why do you think that is?
I believe he felt like it was a threat because I thought we were friends. We had texted, we exchanged. I think he knocked doors for me in my first campaign, the local leader here. And he wouldn't take my calls after that. I was not threatening. Like I did not want to be chair of the Republican Party.
You are not a threatening person.
Yeah,
I've met people that are very bombastic, and you can understand why they might be like, you're a little too much, but
Yeah.
you are team oriented. You're organized. Like, why
I
wouldn't
could
they
have done
want
a
to work
really
with you?
good job.
I'm sure you could have. That's why they didn't want you there, because you would have done too good a job.
I
right?
was like, I could have done a really good job just
sure you could
just
have.
in my county helping education. Like that's all I had dreamed for at that moment. Just help me so this doesn't happen again in my county. That's all I wanted to do. And so
You didn't want to have to start a whole thing from scratch, right? You're like, you've got like a little bit of a runway. Can we do this together? And they said
no. And so then, I got together with Bridget and Tiffany and we were like, well, let's do it statewide. Okay. Because they were all over the different parts of the state and they had the same problems. And we're like, we'll just do it statewide. And so we tried to approach
Good for you.
bigger people in the Republican Party and say, hey, look what we're doing. And they were like, no interest, get away from us. And so, early on, all of those all of the articles and talking heads saying that we were a branch of the Republican Party, we were nothing but Republicans. And I was like, we were laughing because we're like,
That's right. No, we're in our own lane and we're rocking it right now.
we're doing our own thing over here.
What's funny though is if you observe, like I've said, you have to go into this movement with a competitor's mindset. I went in with like goody two shoes mom mindset, and that's all well and good. We have a lot of hustle, we have a lot of heart, but there's going to be a winner or a loser. And what I see on the left, like it's like if you have any football players, I have two boys who've played football. They watch film, right? They watch how the other team is playing so that they can build proper strategies when they go to play them on the field. If you look at our opposition, wokeism, far left progressivism, anything that's waging war on your family, you see that they have strong connections to their grassroots activists. So J.B. Pritzker, Governor Pritzker, far left progressive. Do you think he'd ever distance himself from grassroots activists of his ideological base? Never. Never. He won't distance himself from Planned Parenthood or Indivisible or League of Women Voters.
No matter how crazy some of them are.
Yeah, and he may be talking behind closed doors and be like, well, not going to be best friends forever. But he knows that that is the apparatus and organization strategy to win. And so I think that this is a great empowerment for anybody, whether you're in a red state or a blue state. Eventually, that bridge is going to have to be, made and created. We've tried, but it goes to show how grassroots, parental rights movement, all of these organization efforts, Moms for Liberty, phenomenal. Awake Illinois, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, is so very needed because the Republican Party in politics, that's not going to cut it.
Yep. Amen, sister. In red states and in blue states and everywhere in between, everywhere
all
in between.
of it. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about in a blue state. Like, what does it take to win? What first of all, what does a win look like in a blue state? Because I don't think it looks the same. Like in Florida, a win, right, for us is every bill we ever dreamed of in our realm of area has already passed House, Senate, and signed into law within like 2 legislative sessions. And so now we're just like, well, maybe we should do something about this or that. And so
go watch the Dolphins because we're so free and having a great time.
Yeah.
So in a state like Illinois or California or New York, you're having to battle to protect the fundamentals of the U.S. Constitution. So it's hard to say like we're for this and we want to have bills for this when you're having to fight against really radical anti-parent, anti-child legislation. So
stopping bills would be a huge win, right? Like
massive.
Massive.
And if nothing else, once people even just know what is in the bill, then they are awakened to, oh my gosh, this is happening in our state. There are literally people in Springfield, our capital, that are trying to, for example, Rep. Anstava Murray, far left lunatic in the Downers Grove area of Illinois. 4876 a couple years ago would have labeled parents child abusers for halting gender-affirming care of their child. So mutilation, sterilization practices, which we know have happened statewide in Illinois and many other places, a lot of it covered by Medicaid. So your tax dollars preying on the most vulnerable children, lying to vulnerable families, so wrong. If you as a parent stood in the gap and said no to that for your child, say a school counselor came in and indoctrinated your daughter to believe she could be a boy. If you said no to those practices, you could be labeled a child abuser with criminal penalties. And then within that bill, it went into pregnancy care and vaccines and medical treatment. So that could be a whole host of things. But we stopped that. It couldn't even be read in committee because we exposed who the legislator was behind it. We had all hands on deck, voices from around the country come on live streams on social media to say, this is wrong. Do not do this. And so the win was basically pushing government back from encroaching and saying, we do not want this, we will expose it, and we stopped it. And I firmly believe if we had not launched that offensive, this bill would have been read and it would have passed. J.B. Pritzker is all in on this agenda. He has the funding with all of this. It technically should have if we hadn't pushed back against it. So you saw this surface in California. Eventually Newsom vetoed that, but Elon Musk said, if this passes, like everybody's going to leave. And he ended up leaving and pulling his company out. So Pritzker, I don't think he would have vetoed it. I think it would have passed, and it would have trafficked kids further into the gender medicine, which we now know is just so evil and so harmful.
Big win.
Huge win.
Stopping
to
the bill.
Stop that bill and to show there is an agenda to attack your parental rights and to come for your children. Like, that's not hyperbole. When we say the war on children, that's not just, what if this happened? We are literally showing this is happening, and they have a lot of power. Can you imagine if you criminalized a parent for saying, don't mutilate and sterilize my child? Like, that's where we are. So now that people see this, and this woman's running for a state legislature again, she should not get reelected on that alone.
What will she be?
What will she be?
Yeah.
I don't know. Laura Hoy is running against her, District 41 of Illinois. If you know people in that district, I mean, get that seat flipped. We cannot have these radical anti-parent, anti-child people in office with this power. Just leave us alone. So in blue states, it's really, how can we get government to leave us alone? And then another win was last year, 2827, was the anti-homeschool bill, which now you're seeing in Connecticut, you're seeing it in other places where they're trying to come after homeschoolers. Why? Why? Do you know why? I think I know why.
Because you're too free.
You're too free. It's the ultimate freedom to educate your children in your own home is the ultimate parental right. And they're seeing K through 12 enrollment drop year over year over year. And they're saying, well, how do we get those kids back on the radar?
It's all about power, because if the enrollment is dropping, teachers, it goes right back. I mean, people think I'm being hyperbolic when I say the teachers union is, I mean, they're evil. They are about power and control, not about children. And
Amen. Wicked cabals.
Yeah, it comes in this scenario, it comes back to them losing power because they're losing money, which means they will lose power. And if they can't control, it's not just about controlling the kids and education system. If you think about it, they have hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, between the national teachers unions that fund presidential candidates. Like, that's huge amount of power.
90% of the money goes into politics. It doesn't go into helping teachers or education or children.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they are losing the walking dollar signs of your children being in K through 12 schools, but then they also want to overlord the curriculum. They want to know, hey, are you teaching your kids about the national sex ed standards that talks about gender ideology in kindergarten? Because if you're not, then you're out of line. What vaccine schedule are you following? I mean, it could go into so many different things. So we stopped that. And props to every grassroots group that really rallied through media, through getting to the state capitol. Great grassroots coalition effort. It works. It works when groups work together. It wasn't the Republican Party. There were some people in the state legislature that certainly did come, rose to the occasion, but we don't have enough anyways. So it really took grassroots momentum, and that we stopped that.
It's wonderful
because we have one of the best homeschool, freedoms in the country. Believe it or not, Illinois has some of the best in the country since the 50s. Yeah, you don't have to submit any document whatsoever to anything.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. But what they do is they leverage some of the most egregious child abuse cases, and they say, well, look, if you don't have a child on government surveillance, every parent is abusing their child. No, we have metrics in place to identify those families. This is not where we should go, restricting homeschool freedom, education freedom.
Okay, what else so we've got 2 legislative wins. What other, do you have any school district level wins? What does winning look like? And winning, I think, also could potentially look like working together with other grassroots organizations, building those relationships.
100%.
So,
oh my gosh, yes. For Liberty Awake Illinois, I mean, we've worked together since the beginning. You have Illinois Family Institute, you have homeschool groups, coalitions, all hands on deck. Yeah, it's pretty beautiful when you see it all come together, and you help elevate other voices. Like, that's really key. It can't just be like just Tina, just Shannon. Like, it has to be the whole effort. But wins on the school board level, we've certainly had wins along the way. The people who are allies on our school boards tend to be quieter. They tend to be what I would call like moles, where they'll give us information and they'll say, like, this is what we're hoping to see passed. They're not going to be activist based in nature, and I wouldn't even necessarily suggest that. But we certainly have allies who are just team sanity. They want to see schools be reclaimed for education, not indoctrination. So those wins do happen, and our elections are off cycles. So this year's a midterm year. We'll have school board, local municipals in 2027. So it's an off year cycle for us. But I think the biggest win is the win that you get in your home, and then it goes out from there. So opt out and empowering people anywhere in the country, anywhere USA, parents who submit opt out forms for their children is one of the greatest wins you can get.
Okay, let's pause there for a second, because let's talk about, if someone's listening right now and they're like, opt out of what? What are you talking about? Like, we talk about it like it's a second nature language, but if someone's just listening, they have no idea what you mean to opt out.
So that's a good lesson for any of us, particularly those of us early to the barricade. Always go back to the basics, which is that there are a lot of families, maybe they have, kindergartners, their oldest child, they're new to this. So opting out is your parental right, is protected under the U.S. Constitution, right? And so if there is anything that is being put forth in front of your child, you have the right to get on paper through your school district and opt out of radical sexual education, mental health screenings, any of those things that you want to opt out of, you can. That is protected. The concern I have is that a lot of parents, I think, are nervous to do that, even when they learn about the things that they may not want their child exposed to, whether it is gender ideology in kindergarten or a mental health screening where third-party companies, maybe even, AI. I know you were talking about that meeting you had over at the White House or at the, in DC. Yeah. Who is getting access to your child's data? A lot of parents, when they realize this, I think they get a little nervous about going on record and thinking, oh, well, the school district's going to think that I'm anti-school. That's not the case. You are protecting your child's data from the digital backpack they carry when they have access, to your child's information via a Chromebook, a student ID, whatever it is, a third-party screening survey. So opting out, there are opt-out forms. I know that Moms for Liberty supplies them. Awake Illinois supplies them. When you put your parental rights on record, it's going to make it a lot harder for even people who nobly think your child should be screened via an AI company for mental health. It puts on record that you know your parental rights. Anyone entrusted with your child should know that you are a parent who is intentional and knows your rights.
I love how you said that. So let's break it down really simple. I'm a mom. I have a second grader, and I learned that on Tuesday they're going to be showing sex ed film.
I would say the parents have to have the opt-out forms before your child even starts the first day of kindergarten. So that's really the lesson. Once you're reacting, you're a little too late. So ideally, you have opt-out forms on file before your child is even going into their first day of school. And you do it every year.
So you go to either momsforliberty.org or to
awakeil.com/forms. We're always updating them because of the fact that mental health screenings are coming in now. We can talk about one of the contracts we found there. But, I think that an intentional parent is so, so important. We can talk about Pritzker and worst governor in history, who I sued. I like mentioning that over and over because I know it bugs him for me to say that. But it doesn't matter all the government talk, all of the coalition talk. The most important thing is how you fortify your home. And the best thing you can do is tell anyone entrusted with your child that you are an intentional parent and that child has a mom and a dad looking out for them. And you put your parental rights on record. Therefore, you have to ask yourself the question, when it's a teacher, a school counselor, a youth pastor, a camp, when they see your child's name on a roster, what comes to their mind? Do they know that there are parents behind that child who are paying attention, who will stop at nothing to protect their children, who will sue if they have to? How do they know you, the mom and the dad? Have they looked you in the eyes? And so I think that if you look at anybody that, even if I said it's a noble thought, this whole mental health screening thing, it's not noble. But in some people's minds, how it's been pitched could seem noble. But if your child's being harvested for their data, for their, social, emotional learning, all of these things that we now know have kind of nefarious agendas attached to it. If they're going to rank your child easy to hard, how would they look at Tina Descovich's children on a roster? Shannon Adcock, John Smith. You have to ask that question, and you should be able to answer that anyone entrusted with your children is going to find it very hard to, overlord them and to overlord your parental rights and to potentially indoctrinate and harm them. So opt-out forms are, to me, the simplest way. You're getting on record with the school and saying, I know my rights. And if they have questions, invite those questions.
But what are they opting out from
they're opting out of mental health screenings, which could be third parties. It could be any company that is contracted or non-government organization.
Why would they want to opt out of mental health screenings? Actually, we're going to take a pause right here for a second. Think about that one.
Sure.
Because, if I've got a kid that I know, he's a little depressed.
Sure.
And he doesn't want to go see a counselor, and I'm not sure that he really needs one, and the school wants to screen him. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about why you think that's an issue. And this is the Fire of Liberty show. And we're going to take a break here for a second to give you a message about our upcoming huge event on Ellis Island on May 2nd. We are really hoping you'll join us.
Today, I'm excited to announce another extraordinary night, this time on Ellis Island.
One really fun event happening this year to celebrate the 250th anniversary is something happening on Ellis Island. The American Journey Experience is partnering with Moms for Liberty and The Torch to present Sea to Shining Sea. Join us on Ellis Island in New York City on May 2nd, 2026 for a powerful celebration of America.
Join us in lifting the bedrock of our strength, a nation that welcomes immigrants.
The night will end with fireworks over the Statue of Liberty and an after party right there on Ellis Island.
We want to see you there.
I think this could be one of the most memorable nights I have ever been a part of.
Come and join us on May 2nd, 2026, and come find your American dream story. Welcome back to the Fire of Liberty show. You just heard from Glenn Beck, David and Tim Barton. and some others from the American Journey Experience and from the Torch. We are putting together an amazing celebration of America's 250th anniversary. And we really hope you'll join us. momsforliberty.org/freedom250. Later next week, we're going to be announcing a second event that we're so excited about on the USS Midway on June 6th. You can also find that on momsforliberty.org/freedom250. If you're out there on the West Coast, you're going to want to join us for that, celebrating America's heroes. This is the Fire of Liberty show, where we bring you frontline warriors, moms and dads that are out there fighting this culture war, standing up for kids, trying to save our country. And today we have a special guest from the state of Illinois, Shannon Adcock. She's from DuPage County, Illinois. She is the founder of Awake Illinois and of the first chapter in Illinois, the DuPage chapter of Moms for Liberty. She is a blue state warrior, we like to call her. She has got a lot of fire in her belly. And before the break, we were talking about opting out.
Yep.
And I said, well, what would parents want to opt out of? And you said mental health screenings. And I said, what if my kid's a little depressed and I think he might need a mental health screening? Why would I want to opt him out of that?
So the problem is you don't know who is going to be entrusted with your child to sit with them for a counseling session or to promote any manner of things that may be in conflict with your parenting views. So that could be, with
like
these
what?
non-government
It's his teacher.
non-government organizations, but it's not. It's contracted people. It could be third parties, and oftentimes it's non-government organizations, because through grant money, that's where the schools bring this in. They don't have the money to do it themselves.
Wouldn't it be a therapist?
No, it's not. So in the one contract that we expose, and I encourage people to go to our website to look at this whole breakdown. We go through the entire contract piece by piece. You can see that they are listing anybody that's third party in this contract for mental health as, quote, school officials. And it has a huge disclaimer that says these are not medical professionals. These are not clinicians. So you have to ask, well, who are these people? And if it's a non-government organization, we have receipts that gender ideology, non-government organizations, some of them come from Lurie Children's. It could be just a woke organization in your local community that has the grant money to do this. They could sit with your child unbeknownst to you and talk to them about any manner of things, about puberty blockers, about chest binders, about all these things that are in conflict with what we know to be good and true for children. And yet you may not know as the parent. But I mentioned the opt-out forms because if you have asserted your parental rights on record, it's going to be a lot harder for them to consent to that on your behalf in the school. And so that to me is the most intentional barrier that any parent can put forth right now. It's so easy, and I encourage you to do it because I know most people aren't. And so I really encourage people to do that. And so you don't know who's entrusted with your child when the school is considering them, quote, school officials. These are not clinicians. And I know that mental health is a big talking point. None of us want to see children who are depressed, who are dealing with self-harm issues, anorexia, bulimia, any number of mental health disorders. But that's not what these mental health contracts are doing. It's putting before your child third parties that are not clinical in nature. And by the way, schools are not to be clinical in nature. They are to educate children. We have illiteracy rampant in the state of Illinois. We're only at 30% literacy across the board in K through 12. Another way of saying that is that 70% of our students are not reading at grade level, and yet they're presuming that a contract with non-government organizations is going to cure mental health issues when we can't even teach them to read. So we've put the cart before the horse. And that to me is why as parents, we have to reclaim that responsibility into our home. You cannot cede it to the government.
So you can use your forms to opt out of mental health screenings. How about surveys?
Surveys, it's all in there. It's totally comprehensive. And what I found when I have submitted this for our children is that you may get some questions, and it may vary by the topic. They may run it by you. I mean, that's ideal because teachers and counselors, I think for the most part, are pretty respectful. But for anybody that's like, darn, I really hoped I could, expose any number of kids to this, at least when you have the opt-out forms, your child may go to the library and they may not be part of that survey. Guess what? They're getting their homework done. So that's the positive. And the more that people do this in mass, the more normalizing it is to assert your parental rights. And ideally, the biggest win across the country would be that all of this, mental health screenings, all of it would be opt-in. And I think that with the parental rights wins we're getting at the Supreme Court level, this is going to be what will help limit liability just from a school district, legal perspective, make any of this opt-in instead of parents having to opt out.
That's what we put in our draft model policy for AI tools in classrooms. We
Perfect.
We drafted it for opt-in, knowing that it's just a template and a model policy and that districts and states will likely take it out. But we, when we discussed it, this is a hard level to get to be opt-in. And I said, well, but we need to set the standard and let them remove it or take it out. But we should definitely put the opt-in there.
Well, absolutely. And you mentioned the AI. So this Care Solace contract that we exposed out of McHenry County, Illinois, it's for 6th through 12th graders. This is partnered with an AI company called Lemnis. And so we have no idea when your child, if they are to, have a sad day and they're with a counselor, parents don't need to consent to any of the input of their information, their child's information, into this third-party database that's internet-based. Parents don't have to consent to that. The entire contract says the student and or the parent. And in Illinois, you can have counseling sessions or quote therapy sessions up to 3 months or 8 hours, whichever comes first, without parental consent. But if anyone entrusted with your child sees that you have asserted your parental rights on paper, they see an intentional parent, and it's going to put fear in them to say, not that kid.
What's the web address where they can find those opt-out forms?
awakeil.com/forms.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I want to switch the conversation a little bit from winning to losing, because I imagine in a blue state, you lose a lot.
It depends on your definition of losing. I mean, it can feel that way sometimes. I think 2021 to 2023 were really intense, and I'm sure that you understand that as well. We just didn't have enough street cred, enough experience.
I feel like when I talk to people in blue states, though, even in Moms for Liberty chairs and others, I'm exhausted, but they are, if you could be more exhausted, they're more exhausted than I am.
Because it's like whack-a-mole.
And they're beat down, and they're just, they're like, I'm just in a blue state. What does that mean exactly?
Well, wokeism, as I would call it. I mean, Awake Illinois is you're not woke and you're awake, you're paying attention, you're not asleep at the wheel. So it's kind of twofold. But wokeism isn't just in K through 12. I mean, we have a board of directors. Shout out to Steve Lucy and Helen Levinson, our board. They've put their name on an organization in a time where they target you, right? You know this. They target the leaders at the helm. So props to Steve and Helen. And we also welcomed on a law enforcement fellow, a retired chief of police from Riverside, Tom Weitzel. So it's not just K through 12 in blue states. It's also, immigration enforcement. It is in every sector of our government and society.
Medical, it's everywhere.
Medical freedom. That was a huge part of our initial launch, was medical freedom. And so, can I talk a little bit about suing Pritzker and how that really came from
You've only mentioned it 3 times.
We're going to talk about it again. Maybe I will drop the F-bomb. That $20 bill may get used. I'm just kidding. I won't swear.
I just say no. We have to explore.
Well,
it. You've dropped it in. Now we have to know.
Well, so in Illinois, we were one of the last states to go back to school in person. And then when we did have our children back in school, they had to wear masks. Pritzker and schools and everybody was saying they have to wear the masks. Well, it turns out a woman who was actually working in healthcare knew the communicable disease code, and she knew that it was a violation of due process. You cannot force a mask on anybody. That actually requires a court order because mask is a form of quarantine. And so we ended up with an attorney, Tom DeVore. He was the only guy who was willing to have 700 of us parents sign on. And my organization had a website donated to get parents, to organize and to get the funding per school district. And that was one of the most formidable efforts to tackle the blue state tyranny, because we actually sat in the courtroom and listened to the, communication between the school district attorneys, Pritzker's attorneys, and the judge, God bless her, after 2 court hearings, and my son was in the court with me. He was in 6th grade at the time. He could be unmasked in the courtroom, but if he'd been masked at school, he would have been sent home. That's how ridiculous this whole thing was. But when she granted the injunction that put the stay on that, she said, this is the type of evil the law was intended to constrain. She literally used the word evil, and I would agree with her. And that evil has not abated. It folds into not supporting our police, to not protecting our citizens. I mean, we have Sheridan Gorman, the student at Loyola, who was just shot on the beach in Chicago. It's making national news because wokeism is literally death. I mean, if you do not protect your constituency, your children are going to be masked at school. If we hadn't stopped that, and I think too, if DeSantis had not been this pocket of resistance, that would have gone on longer. But we were able to stop it because we literally had to sue our own government. I mean, think about that. That's why people are tired, because to preserve the due process under your state constitution or federal constitution, you're having to sue your own government. I mean, it's just insane.
I mean, it's what we did with the Biden administration with Title IX, to get that
You
injunction.
literally have to sue.
You have to use every tool in the toolbox.
Yep.
And I would just say, in your case and in blue states, you just have to dig a little deeper in that toolbox and
you have
find
to
a few more
expose it.
tools.
Sometimes you just have to expose it, but
Yeah.
it's like whack-a-mole, like the game at like Chuck E. Cheese or
Yeah,
like those
yeah.
places where like the thing keeps popping up. You can't hit everyone. You have to hit the one where you can get wins. Where are you going to get people to come alongside you? Parents coming alongside you and submitting opt-out forms, huge wins. That's sending a message to schools that they're not going to stand for this whole you being the mom and the dad. We are still reclaiming our parental rights, even when we send our kids to K through 12 schools. And then, wherever the wokeism is, but you have to go where you can get wins. It can't be everything. You can't just like throw spaghetti at the wall. So legislative wins are huge. Opt-outs are huge. And I think having, we talked about getting a seat at the table. Your table and your platform to expose the truth is so important. When you shed light, that empowerment is sometimes the only place parents are getting the real truth on what is happening. And so keep your First Amendment right to free speech, keep your social media platforms active. That's where parents are going to get the information.
I would say you're doing all three of Mom's Liberty values, and you're doing them really well. The first one is standing for truth, and you've said that several times, how important it is to speak truth and spread truth and share truth. We empower others. We're going to talk about that one, I think, next. And we build relationships. And you've talked about having to build relationships with the homeschool community and others, because the voice of one just is not enough when you're up against the machine like you are. So let's talk a little bit about empowering others and what that looks like in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it comes down to, I cannot save your children for you. You can't save the country's children. You have to actually empower people to take steps. And so the opt-out forms, again, I keep coming back to it. That's one of the most important things. But another form of empowerment, and we see this a lot in blue states, is people just give up on voting. Like they just don't even show up to vote. And I'm so frustrated by that, because this whole concept of it's rigged and is there cheating? Yes, of course there is. The SAVE Act, I get that. Those are all really good things. But I know a lot of really good people with great values are not taking those values to the voting booth. And so you keep ceding your children, your liberty to the wrong people. You wonder why we've arrived to these points. So I encourage people to vote. November 3rd is a midterm election. Like, vote for people that are talking about parental rights, that are talking about enforcing the law as it's written. And I think get people on record, be empowered, because if you sit back, our children are seeing people who are basically just saying, well, we'll just let Pritzker and the left and the death cultists and the woke clown cars, they'll just be running the show. Is that the best we can do for our children? Shame on us if it is. So we do a lot of get out the vote empowerment. We were very active in the 2022 midterms. I don't know how active we'll be this year. We'll see. But I think that just knowing what is happening and taking those steps, it's not rocket science. I mean, I'm not asking you to start an organization or to, go on national news, but I am asking you to do something. You have to do something. Again, if doing nothing's the best our children are going to get, shame on us.
I agree.
It's not acceptable.
So how else do you empower others? Because I have a feeling you do a lot of that in your advocacy work. I know Mom's Liberty chapters are doing it all across the country. So what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I think that, if you see something that you don't like in your school and something has gone really wrong, you have to go on record with your school district. People will send us so many messages, and I'm sure Moms for Liberty chapter chairs understand this. Like, they will tell you all these things that are happening, and they just hope that you're going to fix it all. You need people who will be willing to take the steps for their children. Mm-hmm. So if there is an issue, one of the ways that I can tell if people are really serious about helping their child or fixing a situation is, are you willing to file a grievance form with your district? A grievance form is basically like an infraction has happened and we need to fix it.
Do you help them with that?
We mentor them on that process. And if a parent doesn't take that step, then I know that this just isn't something they're ready to do. And that makes me sad. But if they're willing to see a solution brought to the table for their child, I will gladly, and our team will gladly, as I'm sure Moms for Liberty will gladly come alongside you. But we cannot just post something to social media and hope that that's going to save our country's children. We can mentor
Which
though now.
most people want to do. It seems like they want to play out all their grievances just on social media and hope it gets fixed, or dump them on your local chapter leader or your local grassroots group and hope that they will fix it. And so it's really that empowering others is extremely important to the success of the work, to the protection of children, to the bettering of education, to better leaders getting elected.
Yes.
It's a very important thing. And it sounds like you're doing a great job if you are mentoring others on how to use the tools that have been created, connecting them. We do a lot of connecting with folks and getting them.
Wouldn't you have benefited from that manner of mentorship or, connection and networking in 2020, 2021, or when you were a school board member? I mean, we would have benefited from that. And so now to be able to give that to people, I was so hungry for that when I first started this, to be able to help people kind of navigate what not to do and what to do. We're already affecting such positive change. And there are so many people that will say, thank you, and that are grateful because we were the only ones to give them the resources.
I would say the work that we're all doing is a result of things that we were hungry for, because we have like the school board campaign toolkit. And I've said before, I Googled how to run for school board. There was nothing out there.
I would have loved having that.
There was nothing. There was literally not a single thing that I could find out how to run for Congress, but that's not the same. My race was nonpartisan. It was a quarter of the size. I didn't have the Republican Party or the Democrat Party with me. No one knew how, no one would tell you, who knew? The teachers union. And they kept that close hold. They have the playbook for decades now. And so unless you were plugged into that, you had no idea how to run for school board. And so those are the things that we're still creating today and doing trainings and workshops and there's so much work to do. There's so many more parents that don't even know either one of us exist or that we're out there and we're doing this work. And it's just, there's a lot to do.
That's where you go back to the basics though, right? Yeah. Never forget the basics, always come back to them. But I will say, you talk about blue states and wins and losses. Alvin Louis had told me this with Courage as a Habit. He's like, your opposition, your haters will always appreciate your work more than your supporters and the people you help. And that really is true, certainly in my experience, maybe yours too. Yeah. But I mean, when you work so hard and you know that you're empowering people and you know that you're affecting a positive change and that parents are empowered to stand in the gap, you see all the good things. Nobody appreciates your efforts more than your opposition. Like I talked about football and people watching film. They are watching the teams that are going to be the hardest players on the field because that's the strong competition. It's so important to remember and have realistic expectations that it's okay when you're getting a lot of heat. They smear who they fear. And it will feel like you just have so much pressure coming at you and hate. But that is actually a good thing.
But how do you manage that? Because there are so many cowards in the Republican Party, if we want to go back to that, just in general. I think young moms, not that they're cowards, but they don't want to not be liked by the other moms of the kids in their classes.
Their social credit score.
You just want to be liked in general. And I think young moms especially. So how do you, where do you find that courage? How do you dig down? How have you maneuvered through it? Here in Florida, in 2021, it took a lot of courage to stand up to some of those things. But now it doesn't take much courage at all to stand up for anything. But I would think in a blue state, it's probably still hard.
It is. And I think it's like the Pareto principle, 20% of the people will do 80% of the work. I think that's very applicable to this time, to the parental rights movement, to being a courageous advocate. You can't expect the masses. You can empower them, but you can't expect them to all be as vocal as perhaps you and I. And that's okay. And I think it takes a certain temperament to be an outlier, an outspoken outlier. But what was the initial question?
I don't know.
Okay. So I want to make sure I came back to it.
The best part
I could keep rolling with this.
No, it's fine. We were talking about the how do you
balance it?
No, not balance, but how do you take it and keep going? Because I have names that the kids and the moms in your kids' class don't like you and are maybe pointing at you and won't include your kids in the play dates. And how do you keep going?
You keep going because you know that you're making a difference. You know that children have been saved from the harms of gender ideology. I mean, we have people who have said, thank you for connecting me to the right resources. They otherwise might have gone down a bad path. So to me, one success story like that outweighs the 10 haters. But you have to find your allies. You have to find your friends. I think we've all found friends at the barricade. We've kind of filtered through who is going to really stand with you and who won't. I wish that wasn't the case. But you also have to, I think, practice like they call it like work-life balance or whatever. You have to practice advocate life balance as well. Sometimes you have to pull away. You have to get off social media. I make sourdough. I listen to music. I snuggle with my dogs. I take walks. Like, yeah, you have to do those things though, because you really can become jaded or hardened. I've noticed that in myself along the way.
I would say the balance is important too, not just work-life balance, but in your relationships, because I know some people that drive this so hard that I can't have a conversation with them about
normal things
because they just want to be driving this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm like, just, let's
talk about other things.
Right now we're at church, lady. Can we just talk about Jesus for a minute?
Interestingly enough, like I don't lead with that. Like if I go to a friend's party or something, I'm not running around like leading with that. If it comes up, like I'll offer, but I'm not like, I'm with Wake Illinois. Sometimes people, at the grocery store, actually people come up to me and be like, Wake Illinois, right? Thanks for everything you're doing. But I don't lead with that because there is a whole life to be had outside of this battle.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a time where you are finding your tribe, you're finding people who share your values. And in blue states, it's going to be a little trickier. And some people would prefer to go along to get along. And it's been like that from the beginning of time. So the outliers, the Pareto principle applies. 20% are going to do 80% of the work. And when you have that realistic understanding, you don't feel as dejected. Some people just don't have the temperament or the bandwidth, or their livelihood depends on, maybe not being as public. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that people have to put their family's needs first. But again, I can't thank any of you enough who have put your names to this movement, to politics, to grassroots activism, because it really is a family journey. And, it's a time for a time such as this.
So the title of this episode is, be uncancelable.
Say it 5 times fast.
And so have you been canceled?
I'm going to say no. I lost a school board race, but 2 days later I started at Wake Illinois. They probably wish I'd won that school board race in the end.
I lost my school board race in 2020, and I promise you that they are wishing I would have
still
stayed in Brevard on the school board at this point.
But I always encourage people, do not ever say you've been canceled. You haven't been canceled. We had contracts canceled for Moms for Liberty, Wake Illinois Leadership Institute, a school board candidate training, because the venue was like, we've got all these lunatics calling us. Did they cancel us? No, we just moved it to a different location. So to be uncancelable means that you're going to have those moments where you face adversity, and some people would just be like, forget it, I'm done.
Yeah.
And you keep going. You have to be a competitor. Like, I don't say you're an advocate. I say you're a competitor. You're going to be in this to win this. And you have to have a competitor's mindset, because everything we're up against is competing to win your parental rights and take them away from you, to win the soul of your child, their body, your freedom. They are thinking of this with a competitor's mindset. So don't be like me and go in like, yay, I'm a mom. I volunteered and I'm going to do, run for school board. You are in this to win this, or this isn't for you.
I love the competitor mindset. I think I'm going to adopt that more in my mindset here.
Put on like the football face paint.
We're going to
show up to work. We're going to be like, why does Tina have on football face paint?
Because it's war today.
There's reflecting light here. And you're at battle. Yeah.
I love it, because we were having a conversation earlier for those that weren't privy to that. And we were talking about being canceled. And I was like, oh yeah, PayPal canceled us, Facebook canceled us, Twitter at the time canceled us. And you said, no, you weren't canceled.
No.
And the truth is we weren't, because we got all of our Facebook accounts back, all of our chapters back. We got back on X. Yeah. We didn't go back to PayPal because they really made me mad, but we've switched to other payment processors, right? And we've moved on and kept going. So they've tried to cancel us in every way possible, but we're warriors.
Been uncancelable.
Yeah, we're uncancelable.
They can't cancel you. You could just say they can't cancel you if you don't like the word uncancelable.
It's not really a word, I don't think, is the problem.
Be uncancelable. It is. It is a word.
It is, because you said that's what you wanted the title of this episode to be. And I was like, that's not a word. I went and Googled it. It is a word. I don't know, whatever. We're not getting canceled today. Let's just stop there. All right,
we're not.
We have to wrap up the hour.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you the final question that I ask everybody. What does it mean to be a joyful warrior?
So a joyful warrior does not flee from the dark. Rather, she brings light to it. Joy is her weapon of choice, because evil or your haters or those that are trying to cancel you want you to be fatigued. They want you to feel defeated. They want you to run around with the mindset that you can be canceled. But when you walk forward happily in faith, trusting the truth, trusting that this is the right thing to do for children. Because again, if you don't do anything, shame on us, right? Walk into a school board meeting or an event, I don't care what it is, when you are reflecting your family's faith and values and your free speech or your liberty, cut that hate and cut that competition with a smile, maybe a little lipstick, maybe a pink outfit, maybe a flag shirt, whatever it is. Cut it like a knife and walk forward gracefully and boldly for children and for liberty. That's a joyful warrior.
There you have it, my friends. One of the best explanations of what a joyful warrior is from Shannon Adcock. Our guest today, she is the founder of Awake Illinois, chapter chair of Moms for Liberty, DuPage County, Illinois chapter, a mom of 3, a warrior in a blue state, a joyful warrior in a blue state. I'm Tina Descovich. This is the Fire of Liberty show. We hope that you'll join us every week, 10 a.m. on all social accounts, and you can find us on Apple and Spotify at any time. Till next week.